Welcome back to The Outright Effect, a podcast in which unique perspectives challenge us to be better versions of ourselves. We're two ambitious women who talk about how we like to stretch our creativity and work on self-growth to become better people. I'm Shelley.
And I'm Tempsy. And today we wanted to talk a little bit more about building your business, how you interact with and engage with your customers. We have been talking quite a bit about the entrepreneurial mindset lately. We've conducted a few interviews with some new and some more established entrepreneurs, business owners. And we thought it might be a good idea or a good topic to talk a little bit about customer service, or how you engage and build your business with your customers, your vendors, your partners, any collaborators that you might have, and how you kind of build a partnership or a relationship with those folks, and how you can continue to maintain them.
Yes, and one of the things that we thought would be really good to start off with is sort of reflecting on how we, first learned about customer service, what those experiences were for us back in the day. Because ultimately, I think, there's a different, I think there's a different expectation set for someone who might be new, like a teenager working like a high schooler working a part-time job or something like that, and how that's kind of like shaped us and helped us along to where we are today. So for myself, I would say, I got my first job at the end of high school, and I honestly, I was just telling Tempsy this after being told for, however long by our parents, right? Like, don't talk to strangers. And suddenly you're placed in this role where you are supposed to be approaching random people you don't know and ask them if you can help them with something. So that was actually quite a, interesting experience for me. Although, I would say today I am probably a lot more outgoing. Back in the day, I was really only more outgoing with friends and people I knew really well, like classmates and stuff like that. So for me to approach I worked in a store. For me to go around and ask customers, like, do you need help finding something, was like a very strange thing for me, especially if there was like a single other person around somewhere. Like, I thought in my mind, I literally thought like, if somebody really needed my help, they would ask me.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm. And so
that's so true. I have the same experience going to work in retail and having to engage with people, and then being told to engage in a different way, like taking more of an initiative to talk to people. It's a completely different experience where, you go up, somebody comes to you and asks you something, and you give them the straight answer, rather than actually engaging with them. And then you're taught, hey, you can also say this, and you can also upsell this, or you can also, point them in this direction, or instead of saying no, say yes with something else. You start to learn all these little tricks of the trade, and you start to gain a much better understanding. And it's kind of the difference between, in one of the restaurants I worked at, they taught you, because they were kind of a little bit more upscale casual, and they said, instead of pointing or telling somebody where the bathroom is, guide them and take them all the way to the bathroom, even if you're on the other side of the restaurant. And that's kind of the difference. Let's, like, the best example I can think of is, you're not just telling somebody where the bathroom is or pointing to it, hey, it's down the hall in between those two doors on the right. You're actually showing them the way. And that's, I feel like, what we're kind of talking about is, you transition from don't talk to strangers to being in a new job, and then having to kind of like engage with somebody on a completely different level than you've ever done before.
Right. And I think, one of the reasons why I wanted to point out, maybe being earlier on in having a job and these types of experiences is because I think, where this conversation is going today is to that higher level, but we don't all start there, right? Like, we start at some other place. I mean, I definitely had moments where I was just like, oh my goodness, I don't even want to talk to anybody today, but it's like part of my job. So I have to. And I think that sometimes we all need to learn, like, what is that gray line, or like that fine line in which, like, we're following all of the things that our manager, whoever, is telling us to do, and then we're kind of like learning to improv in some ways, right? So I feel like, I guess an example that I'll share that I felt a little bit like, I don't really know like how this balancing act goes is when, same thing, like when I was working in the store, we were taught to like take the customer over to like, whatever they're trying to find, they need help finding. But sometimes customers would be like, no, 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 I got it. Just tell me where it is and I got it. And then, the question to me at the time was like, well, how much do I stand here and argue, not argue, but like, how much do we go back and forth? No, I'll take you. No, I can find it. No, I'll take you. No, I can find it. Right.
Right.
So, and clearly this was when I was like, it was one of my first jobs, right? And I didn't know like how is that supposed to go? I have no idea, right? And
Right.
some people would give in, but other people would feel really bad. Like I'm actually like catching you in the middle of something, right? And even if you're like, no, 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 it's okay, I can take you, it's totally fine. Some people just, they kind of maybe they want to, go and get it on their own too. So
Right.
at the end of the day, I think, now, I mean, in the roles we have today, it's very different, right? I'm no longer working in a store environment, obviously, but and so there's no more back and forth about, let me take you to it. No, it's okay. But, I think in the environment that I work in today and have been working in for a while, where we're in the office, like we're okay with this, like, oh, I'll take you. Okay, sure. Like we know at this
Right.
point to, in some ways, kind of like go along with it, or, we
It's become
right,
instinctual.
right. And kind of like automatic. And there is definitely a more natural flow. But I also think that, at this point, having been working for more than half my life at this point, there's a lot of other things that we know now, from, a customer service standpoint that we might want to suggest or throw in some other pieces of information that might be helpful and stuff like that. So it's
Yeah.
definitely been like an evolution, I would say.
Absolutely. And another thing I wanted to point out based on one of the things you said was, it didn't matter how you were feeling that day. You still had to, even if you didn't feel like talking to people, you still had to come to work and talk to people,
Mhm.
right? And I had to learn that in the restaurant industry because people don't care like what's going on at home or outside of work. So as soon as you walk through that door, all business is show
Mhm,
business.
mhm.
Like you have to be on your game because, in the restaurant industry, it's a little bit different because they give you feedback in the form of a tip, right?
Yeah.
And that was my livelihood. And so, but it taught me a really good lesson is like how you treat people is really important,
Mhm.
not just for a tip, but in general, it's extremely important. Inside work, outside work, it doesn't matter. You should treat people well, no matter what's going on with you personally.
Mhm.
You have people that you can confide in for that kind of stuff, right?
That's true.
But don't take it out on people around you, like when you go to a store or something, or when you go to work. Like, that's not fair.
Yeah.
I think, when it comes to people who are just starting out or haven't learned these lessons that we've had the great opportunity of learning. For example, we went to our favorite Mexican restaurant out here. It's like a Tex-Mex place. The food is really delicious. It used to be much more consistent. Like, that's the thing about restaurants. The most important thing is obviously the quality of the food, but also the consistency of the food. And I would say the third thing is the customer service, like the people who are serving you. And with this place, this person was, a younger person, probably early in her career, and just, learning these lessons or starting to learn these lessons, right? Or hasn't yet, maybe. she was not in the greatest of moods. And so she gave my husband quite a bit of attitude, and she, forgot something that he had ordered and left it on the griddle, and it almost got like pretty much burnt.
Hmm.
Like to my standards, if I'm working in a restaurant, which I have for many years of my life, I would not, that wouldn't be up to my standards. But she conversed, my husband watched while they conversed about the food and said, "Hey, it's fine, right?" And she
What?
gave it to him
Oh my
anyway.
goodness.
Yeah, so like, but the thing is, my husband for sure has worked in the restaurant industry since he was young. Like most of his life, the majority of his life has been in the restaurant industry. So he has a bit of an expectation, but at the same time, nobody wants a burnt
Oh
quesadilla.
yeah, nobody wants to
Like
burn
nobody wants
anything.
that. Yeah. And on top of that, this place has been taking great precautions when it comes to COVID-19. And they have plexiglass up above where like the regular sneeze guard is. And they will all wear masks and 6 feet apart and everything like that. But the problem is because they keep the music so loud, They can't hear the customers. So
Oh,
then they start to get frustrated. The customer starts to get frustrated. And so my husband brought it up to the manager, and the manager was like, well, corporate told us we need to do that. So it's required.
that's nuts.
So this is so the reason I bring this up is because I think it's important as we start to grow into having our own businesses to think about the outcome rather than just treating everybody the same or just treating the situation like these are the bureaucratic rules and I have to follow them. If you really care about your job and you care about what you're doing and you care about your customers and you want them to come back, for whatever reason, whatever your incentive is, whether corporate said that or not, is somebody coming in every day and checking on you to make sure the music is so loud that nobody can hear anything? Like, is that really
Right.
happening? If you're a leader, if you're a manager and your people can't hear the customers, they're getting frustrated and the customers are getting frustrated. But did you want to do something about that regardless of, or talk to corporate about it?
Right.
No, this person really just didn't care.
Yeah, yeah, like say like, hey, like we've been noticing that this is something that's been coming up a lot, and I think it would just help a lot of us, everyone really, right? If we could just turn it down a
Yeah,
little bit because people are getting upset and, whatever else the case might be. But I mean, that seems like a very, very simple potential solution.
exactly. Exactly. So I'd say that like those two examples at the same place are examples of folks who are kind of transitioning or maybe learning about the customer service experience. They're not owners. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like they may not have a vested interest in the success of the company, maybe.
Right. So I've also had an experience that I wanted to share that maybe, I think there are a lot of takeaways for, both me and, the other party that I was working with. But this is an example where, it's not just truly transactional. Like, I wasn't going into a store and purchasing an item or like, ordering food from somewhere, but this would have been potentially a more contract type situation where I was the customer. And, honestly, I felt like there was more information that would have been helpful for me to know upfront to make my decision, to know if I wanted to move forward or not, or like make any changes to the situation. So this, what I'm talking about here is more of like like a vendor sort of scenario where I think it's really
Right.
important for vendors to let customers know like expectations, whether that be like costs or the services that are going to be provided, like what are all of the different things that lead up to like what you will end up charging your customer, in the end. And I guess, another like similar scenario might be like construction, right? So, I mean, I have definitely not really worked with, but I've had like, small things done on my home where, they tell me, right? They tell me like, hey, Shelly, you want to do this and that. Well, I'm going to have to buy these few things. So it's probably going to cost about this much. The work is going to take me a few hours, 5 hours or whatever the case might be. If I run into issues, I'll let you
Mm-hmm.
know, right? So I think, that kind of scenario is probably the best way to go about it because then I know what to expect the potential cost might be, right? And like I know what kind of services are
Right.
going to be provided, what kind of work is going to be done. And so, I've had a situation come up recently where it was very opposite from that. I actually didn't, I wasn't aware of the cost until the very end. And then, I really felt like there was no way for me to back out of it after, I found out what that might be. But, there was also, quite a few gaps, in my opinion here, where I was just kind of surprised. I kind of feel like consultations should be probably longer than short 20-minute conversations, seemingly casual. I think there needs to be like some formality there, whether that be someone that you know or you don't know. Right. And I was actually just talking with
Right.
somebody about this in sort of like a real estate situation, because eventually something that I'd like to do is move out of my current home and like, some like move into a larger place. Right. And
Sure.
so, I would say that, here in Hawaii, a lot of it is like, well, I have a friend or I have a cousin or like someone that I know. And my concern is
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, well, it might be someone, someone knows someone, but what I don't know that person. And how do they like what is their perception of friendships when it comes to these type of arrangements, right? Like will they think like, oh, I know
Right.
Shelly, so I don't have to do X, Y, and Z, right? Like she can probably like that's fine. She'll be okay with it. Like, do they think about that kind of stuff?
Right.
And that's just something that had crossed my mind because, I think that sometimes those things come to our minds, but I don't think it's like maybe the best way to go about things all the time because it could lead to like misunderstandings or maybe even like potential disappointments, right? So someone had mentioned
Right.
to me like, "Oh, I know someone." And I said, "Well, I want them to treat me like a complete stranger and try to win me over. Can they do that?" Was really what I asked because, like to me, it's like if I'm going to be moving into a bigger place that's probably going to cost more, this person is going to earn more commission, right? Like, shouldn't they be working harder
Right.
for that? Is my opinion, right? So the same thing
Yeah.
goes. I mean, I don't think that if you just happen to know someone, then now it's okay to cut corners because it's a friend of a friend. Like, I don't think that it's best practice to have that come to mind. Like, I think we should all go in treating our customers with like the highest level of, customer service and making sure that everyone is happy in the end. I think, to me, that's kind of like the most important thing.
Yeah. Clarity is
Mm-hmm,
key,
mm-hmm.
right? All expectations should be out on the
Yep.
table from both sides. And we all got to be super clear about what the process is, like you said, with the construction example, what everything entails. And if there are any issues, this is how we're going to
Right.
handle it.
And I think too that comes with
Yeah.
like, well, what also comes up if, like, let's say I didn't like something, right? So let's say I was getting something repainted. What happens when I don't like it? Like, I think in those kinds of situations, it's good to let your customer know, well, what's going to happen if the work has to be redone or tweaked. Do they, charge the same rate? Or is it going to be done complimentary because, oh, whoops, it's our bad or whatever, whatever the case might be. I think
Right.
some of that dialogue is really important too.
Yeah. And then if some of those things don't go well, like things aren't so clear from the beginning and somebody's surprised by something at the end, how do you handle that? Do you just say, well, too bad?
Hmm.
Like, how is that handled? In my opinion, if you're a business and your goal is to support your customers, then you might want to think about that situation and what the outcome might be if you don't kind of bend a
Right.
little. It's not to say that you didn't do a good job or that the product isn't good enough, but if the customer is unhappy and hopefully they'll buy things from you in the future, then maybe kind of bending a little and treating the situation as its own is more important than
Stand
getting
your
what you
ground.
expected from
Yeah.
it, even though,
Yeah.
yeah, even though you may not have been as clear from the beginning. If you don't remember, then you probably weren't as clear from the beginning. And you have to decide, am I just going to stand my ground for the principle of it? Or am I going to look at this as an opportunity for future long-standing reoccurring
Right. And I
customer?
think it's important to also kind of like feel the situation out because, in a situation where somebody may have been like surprised or, the expectations weren't properly set or, both parties weren't on the same page, I think that level of someone being surprised could or should sort of play into what someone's going to do about it. Right. So, like, let's say if someone was just
Right.
like, oh, really? That's what it is? Oh, that's fine. Then it's probably fine. But if someone was like, what? Like, I had no idea. Like, you should probably handle that situation a little bit differently.
Right. Exactly. It's funny because this something kind of similar happened to us. We when we moved to Vegas, we had to get a new bank because the bank that we are currently members of is only in Hawaii. And so this is like a very well-known bank in the mainland, and they have certain incentives. If you sign up for this, you get like cash back, whatever the case might be. And we look out for those kinds of things. But in this case, the personal banker, my husband had asked him about this type of thing, and the personal banker was like, yeah, you can get this amount of money back if you do this, this, and this. So my husband spent the time, he did this, this, and this. And he went back and they said, oh, well, where's your code? And he goes, what code? And they were like, you can't get this unless you have a code. And he goes, nobody told me about a code. My personal banker said I had to do this, this, and this. I spent time out of my day, valuable time that I could have been spending doing other things. And I did everything that I was asked to do. And so I feel like I should be getting what I was promised. And their bureaucracy and rules, which I get it, it's a bank, totally get it. There's rules and regulations, 100% understand. But this isn't like a federal rule and regulation. This is this bank's rules and regulations. Like they have the power. And so, we didn't get the bonus. And my husband was furious because he specifically asked, "Do you have bonuses? What do I need to get? What do I need to do to make sure that I get this bonus? Because it's free money, basically, and I'm going to be working with you guys for a long time. And I anticipate that I'll be doing a lot of business with you. So, like, why didn't you tell me there was a code?" So he talked to the personal banker, he talked to the leadership at this bank, and they would not give in. And I just was shocked. So I went in and talked to the personal banker and said, "Look, my goal is to make sure that you and I and my husband have a good relationship because we anticipate or hope to do a lot of business with you folks. But my husband is not going to stay with a company who, kind of misled us in a way by not giving us all of the information. And we spent the time to do something and then they didn't follow through on their end of the deal. Like, that doesn't make any sense. And again, my goal is to make sure that we all have a good relationship so that we can continue doing
Mhm.
good business moving forward." And they just would not give in. And he said, "I'm not supposed to tell people there's a code." And like, we get audited to make sure we don't have codes like sitting around so that we're not giving them out. And I was like, "Okay, but he asked you what he needed and you told him and he spent the time to do it. So whether you're allowed to give a code or not, you just made him do a bunch of
Mhm.
stuff for nothing." You know what I mean? And so when I went to, set up my business account, he's like, "Oh, do you have a code?" I was like, "No, but let me look for one,"
Right.
because I wanted to make sure, I got the bonus this time. And I think he did that because he felt
Mhm.
bad. Like he felt bad that this whole situation went down. And he's not normally supposed to ask that. But, I think in his mind, he's like, they should probably get it. So I'm just going to give them this and hopefully we can kind of like water under the bridge type of thing. So, but I think the point here is that bureaucracy and sticking to your rules isn't always the best when you're looking for a good outcome and like good word of mouth for one customer to give a recommendation to one of their friends or whatever the case might be. Like I just got the feeling that they didn't
Mhm.
care as much,
Yeah.
if that makes sense. And I don't think that they just don't care. I think their hands were tied until it went all the way up to leadership and they like the higher level leadership and they said no. And it wasn't like we're saying, "Oh, you're going to lose our business." So you're like, we know that that's not going to hurt them.
Mhm.
They bank for, very high end people. I get it. But at the same time, it's like, wouldn't you want to keep your customers and have them tell other people about the service that you have? Like, that's what boggles
Right.
my mind.
Yeah. I think, well, maybe here's a thought. I think that, sometimes, and this is where it's hard. I feel like some organizations, possibly ones that are larger in size, maybe have to look at customer service training in a different kind of way. Right, because I think, and a lot of
Mm-hmm.
times larger organizations are often telling their employees what they cannot do. This is not allowed. We can't do that, instead of like,
Right.
here are other options you can offer up to a customer instead. Or,
Yeah, like
right,
say no by
right.
saying
And
yes, right?
so,
I think another good example is Shelly and I have worked with two different
mhm,
podcasting apps. And one has been not so great when it comes to customer service, not really responsive, and their their website or their application is not as intuitive and straightforward. And then we worked with another one that was better when it came to customer service, and their app was more simplistic and way more intuitive, almost too
yeah,
simplistic
we were
in some
questioning ourselves
cases.
as we were using it. Like, is that right? That can't be that easy, right? And what I really appreciated about
Right.
them is, and it's the platform that we're currently using, they actually have a really quick response time if you're sending questions that you can't find on their like FAQ page. So, like so far, I've submitted about like three or so questions. I think that I couldn't find any other resources online, or we were wondering about something really specific. And they got back within like a 24-hour period, which to me is just surprising because I can't imagine this is like a small platform nobody uses, right? So there's someone who has all the time in the world.
Right.
Like I'm quite sure they should be pretty busy, you know. So I was impressed with
Yeah.
the response time and how quickly someone got back to us with, you know, the questions that we had. So I would say, you know, that's where I felt like it was pretty good, you know, like people were thorough with their answers and they got back to us quickly so that we could be like, okay, and move on instead of thinking like, do we need to follow up? Did they reply?
And there have been a couple of companies, a couple other companies that just do it so well. One of them I have an example for is a Hawaii-based clothing designer, and I had purchased something from them. You know, Hawaii-based clothing designers, some of them are pretty pricey. And so if you want something, like for me anyways, I really got to want it to spend the money on it. And I purchased something and it didn't fit well. It was like too short in the length from my shoulders to my pelvic area. And so at the time, I had mailed it to Vegas because I was going to be moving to Vegas very soon. And I wanted it to be here so I didn't have to pack it. And in that time, I finally tried it on after it had already been here for like a couple of weeks. And it was too,
Hmm.
I figured out it was too short. And so I was like, okay, I'll just have to like talk to them later and see what I can do because I'm too busy moving. So another couple of weeks went by. I think like a whole month and a half had gone by, and I finally reached out to them and they said, you know, typically our return policy is, you know, within 2 weeks, but I understand, you know, because I told her I was moving and all that. And she said, I understand that moving can be difficult. So as long as you haven't washed it or taken the tags off, we'll be happy to exchange it for you. And I was like, wow, you know,
Hmm.
that's really sweet. They can't pay for shipping, which would have been awesome. So I had to pay to ship it back. But either way, it was like, okay, thank you for considering all the facts and not just treating me like a cog in the wheel or just like
Right.
somebody random, right? Like they care about their customers enough to hear you out. But if you've already worn it and washed it, they can't resell it. So it makes it kind of difficult for a smaller business who's working from the ground up to try to make that
Hmm.
happen for
Hmm.
you if they can't resell it.
Right.
It's like a
Right.
much bigger loss to them. So I was impressed by that. And I felt that they had really considered my situation and what I had been going through, and that I wasn't going to, there was no chance I was going to be able to get it taken care of
Yeah.
within two
And so
weeks of
speaking of some
receiving it.
other like great like return experiences, if you follow me on YouTube, you probably can guess what store I'm talking about, but it is like a national chain department store. I have quite a few videos where I talk about their stuff. But you know, I'd gotten a pair of shoes. They're like Kohan shoes, you know, pretty nice, right? Flats that I was wearing to work. And something on the inside, like the insole thing, like came out. Like it just stopped sticking to like the inside of the shoe. And so I was like, hey, you know what? Like, I really like these shoes. Maybe there's a way I can get these fixed. Like, that's really all I was looking for. Like, how do I fix these shoes? So I took it into the store, you know, here at the
Right.
mall, and I showed it to them. And I was like, hey, you know, I got these shoes like probably less than a year ago. I want to say like 6 to 9 months. And this piece came out and it's not, you know, I can't figure out how to like get it to stay in there. It looks like it literally like tore out of it somehow. I haven't been doing anything crazy with these shoes, but like, yeah, no, I haven't been
You
running
haven't been
marathons.
running
I've
marathons with
never
them?
run a marathon in my life. And I just asked them like how like can I fix them? I was literally thinking like this is a loss already, right? Like whatever. Like these shoes just didn't make it like
Right.
oh well, I guess I might just have to, you know, invest in another pair of shoes for work or find something else or wear one of the other shoes I already own. But you know, I just kind of asked them like, "Can
Right.
I fix these? Like, what can I do?" And they took a look at it and they're like, I actually don't think this is right. We'll find." And they basically found a comparable style, same price, you know, that I paid originally, and I walked out the door with a new pair of shoes, like brand new pair of shoes. Um, I didn't have to pay for
And you
anything.
didn't
They
have to
just
pay
took it
for it.
as like an exchange. And this had happened, you know, another time to me as
Oh,
well. You know,
great.
I know that sometimes there are people out there who are taking advantage of the situation, like, heh heh, I know that this company will return anything that you bring in, even if it's been used. I'm just going to return it
Right.
and say something's wrong. And no joke, the sales associate's probably like, are you crazy? You've worn this for like 10 years, right? But, for me, I literally was
Yep.
like, I want to fix these. And I had another pair of shoes where like something came apart. It's almost like your shoe is talking. I have no other way to describe it than that, but it looks like your shoe's talking, right? And I went in
Yeah,
and I
yeah,
was
yeah.
like, how do I fix this? Like, can I glue it? Like, what's going on? How is it going to stay? And they're like, hey, you know what? We'll take it in the back and see if we can glue it right now. And I was like, okay, cool. Like, I'll wait out here. So they tried it, but the glue just wasn't sticking. I don't know if it's like the curve of the bottom of the shoe or whatever that just wouldn't let it stay. But they're like, you know what? Like, hey, I'm really sorry. Like,
Hmm.
those were also shoes I hadn't worn very much, to be honest. And I had them for like a couple of months, and I was like, why is this happening? I just want to get them fixed. I'm totally fine with keeping the pair that I have. I just want to wear them longer. Like, how do I get that to happen, right? And same thing, they're
Right.
like, hey, you know what? We have one more in stock. We can swap the one that you have out for a brand new pair. And I'm just like, oh my God. Like at this point, I'm almost like, I feel like I should just get rid of the shoes that are breaking because I feel bad that they just keep switching them out for new ones for me. But I feel like that's a
Right.
great thing. Like I wasn't going in demanding something from them, right? It was just like so happened to be like the positive outcome that came out of me just honestly being like, hey, like something is wrong with this and I just want to get it fixed. Like, how can I do that? Um, and yeah, they were able to solve my problem.
Right.
So I was super happy about that. But those are some good experiences that I've had. So there's another company that I wanted to mention where I had a positive customer service experience. And this is like, I think it's a smaller company. I know they're newer, maybe only been in business for like 2 or 3 years or so, but they sell like they have like a eco-friendly, like sustainable, mission with their company. And they sell a lot of like cleaning supplies and hand soaps and things like that. So this company is called Blue Land. And something that I thought was so great is I had ordered something on their website and I got the tracking number and the confirmation and all of that stuff. And so somewhere along the way, because I'm that person who tracks the packages, like where is this thing I wanted, right? So somewhere along the way, it like I don't know, fell into the matrix. I don't know where it went. It didn't make it here, and it stopped its journey. So I'm like, and it stayed like that for a few days, maybe about a week. So I reached out to them and I was like, hey, I know I ordered this product from you. Here's my order number. Here's a tracking number. And I don't like honestly, I don't know what happened to it. Like it just kind of stopped. Like it didn't make it here and I don't know where it is. And immediately they're like, we got it and like
Hmm.
sent another one out the next day. And that one came within like, 3 to 5 days later, like just like the shipping said. So I thought, that was really great that they recognized the situation and did something about it really quickly. Like, I provided them with all the information, like my order number and the tracking number, so that they could see that the package stopped somewhere. And, in my opinion, that's something that they should be addressing with whatever, mail delivery service they're choosing to use, right? Because clearly there's an issue. Um, so
Right.
yeah, I just wanted to mention that. I
Hmm.
thought that was really great of them that they, recognized it, reached out to the mail carrier and tried to see, what the issue was, but also at the same time, while they're doing that research, noticing that it's really not going anywhere. Like we should send this girl her item so that she could have it and, use it. So yeah, I thought that was really great.
Right. I have something similar. This was headphones, Bose headphones. I had purchased them, and then within less than a year, they started malfunctioning. Like I couldn't hear anything out of one side of these headphones. They're like Bluetooth headphones. And I went on their website. I'm sorry, the first time this happened, I went to their store here in Vegas because we were in Vegas at the time, and my mom's husband had just bought like a $400 pair of headphones, and so I told the guy like I almost left because my son was like getting tired and stuff, and then I was like, wait, let me just go ask. Can you guys watch him real fast? And sure enough, I was like, hey. These aren't working anymore. Da da da. He's like, here's a new pair. Just give me those ones. I'll switch it out because I guess they have like a year warranty policy. And so I was like, okay, are you sure? And he's like, yeah, that guy just bought a $400 set of headphones. Like, don't worry about it. So I was like, okay, great. Like maybe that just put them over their projected earnings that day or something like that. So he just switched it out for me real fast. And then I bought another pair like later on, and they went out as well. And so I went on their website and they were like, okay, Like you've troubleshot it or whatever. Here is a number, like a packaging slip, take it to UPS. I took it there. They just scanned it and took my headphones, wrapped it up for me, and sent it off. And I had a new pair within a week. And I was just like, that's amazing. Like
Mhm.
they are so proud of their product and take so much pride in it, and you as a patron, right? Because if you buy a pair of headphones, they probably last you a while. The frequency at which you're buying headphones for most people, if you're buying like expensive headphones, not everybody. I know some people go through headphones like crazy, but typically if you're buying expensive ones and you take care of them, the likelihood of you buying
Right,
more, the frequency is very low. So I'm sure that's probably like their goal is like, we know you're spending a lot. We want to make sure you have a good
right,
experience.
right,
We want you to be a customer for life. Stick with Bose. Don't go to like one of the other competitors. Just stick with us. And for me, like I will stick with them because they have taken care of me over the years. It's expensive, but it's totally worth it. And the same thing happened with me with Fitbit. When I got my first Fitbit, after a while it stopped charging. So we did some troubleshooting really quickly via email. Like it was only over email. And then they were like, okay, well, it's not working. So, here's a packing slip, send it to us. And I got a new one within a week. And I'm just like, that's so
mhm,
amazing. They care, like they care about their customers. They know that the product could could technically malfunction. Obviously, they've had some experience with that. Not everything is going to work perfectly all the time. We're going to take care of our
oh
customers
yeah,
because there's competing products out
absolutely.
there,
Actually,
right? Like
it's funny
you got to
because
keep your
I
customers.
was just thinking about that too, where like, yeah, I think some of these companies out there really have that thought in their mind about being like a lifelong, right, supporter of their brand and taking pride in their product and their brand. Like, I mean, Bose is known for having like great quality headphones and all that kind of stuff. So it's like they don't want that to be like tarnished in any way, right? Like they don't want anything to say otherwise. And so I totally understand that
Right.
one. Actually, on the flip side, I had purchased a Black Friday sale item that pretty pricey. It was like $100 off. That's really the only reason why I bought it during this time. And I still haven't gotten it. And today is December 27th.
Mm-hmm.
So I had ordered this item.
Whoa.
It was getting delivered to my PO box, but nowhere on the website said that they don't ship to PO boxes. Thank you very much. So it tried to, I mean, I guess whoever,
Oh,
FedEx, I don't know, whoever tried to deliver the item, they're like, we don't deliver to PO boxes. So it went straight back to the warehouse. And I did not know that this was happening at all. I thought like, it's Black Friday, it's really busy. Everyone's making online sales right now. Cyber Monday is like 2 days later, right? So it's probably just like a whole lot of mail that needs to get delivered. So
yeah.
that's why it's taking so long. But then I thought like it is kind of taking a while. So I went on to like check the tracking. And that's when I found out it turned around and went back to where it came from. Like there was no other way for me to know that. And I was
Oh
like,
my
oh
gosh.
my God, like I want that thing. Like they're probably going to be sold out now. And so it was just tough to get in touch with them through customer
Oh,
service. Their customer service line was like, it told you like press one for blah, blah, blah. But then when you press one, it just continued press two for press three for this. And I'm like, wait, so this thing doesn't even work. I can press the number and it won't even
oh
take
my
me
God.
there. Oh my God. So I went on their online chat and I waited. I was like, it said you have 99 plus people in front of you. And I was like, whatever. I really want this thing. It's $300. So I waited. But
Oh,
when it got to me, I waited until it went all the way down until it was my turn. It kicked me out. Like I didn't even get to talk to anybody. I was like, what in
no
the world?
way.
So another day, I tried again. I finally got to chat with somebody. I gave them my order number and I said, hey, I did not know that you didn't, like it said nowhere that, I could clearly see that you do not ship to PO boxes. I can give you another address to send this to. And whoever I was chatting with said, oh, yep, sure. Like we can have one sent out for you. You'll get another email with a shipping confirmation. Well, a few days later, here I'm waiting for that email so I can like watch my package again, right? And I never got that email. And then so I went on the chat again a third time and same thing, gave them the order number. Like finally somebody's here and they're not kicking me out of the chat. Thank goodness. And so, yeah, I'd said like, hey, I was chatting with somebody a few days ago. Here's my order number. They're supposed to send something out to me. And the rep said, they didn't complete the reorder. Like they didn't complete the process to ship it out to you again. But I'll do it for you right now. And I just
Oh
like
my goodness.
waited. And then I was on the chat with him until I got the confirmation email, like your order is being replaced, blah, blah, blah. And so anyways, I'm supposed to be getting it in a couple days.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh, she started
Mhm.
this during Black Friday. Holy cow. You know, it's so funny that you say that because I am in the market for a stationary bike. It is too cold during
Mhm.
the winter out
Mhm.
here to go on walks early in the morning like I used to do in Hawaii. So I'm looking to get a stationary bike, and I was looking at reviews for two different bikes. One of them has good reviews, but says that their customer support is terrible. The other one has great reviews as well, and there it said that like a couple of them said like on the down pedal or the downturn, it eventually starts clicking, but the customer support is so
Oh my
great,
God.
they'll just send you a new bike and you don't even have to return the other one. So I'm like, okay, well, what do I do? Because this bike doesn't seem to have very many issues, but it does have a label on it
What?
that says like something may cause cancer. And then this other bike, yeah, it was really weird. Like there's this label on there about
I'm very
cancer. Can't
confused.
remember exactly what it says, but it's something about it causing cancer. Yeah, so I was like, and a lot of people put that picture like they downgraded it a star, even though it works really well and it's good for short people and like all this different stuff. Like they're like, but this really throws me off. I'm like, yeah, that would throw me off too. And then like if it breaks, which didn't seem like it broke very often, I only read one review where something was wrong. The customer service is terrible. But then you have this other bike where the customer service is great, but it's highly likely that this issue might come up. And I'm kind of like wavering on the side of the good customer service because nobody wants to go through that, even though the bike isn't going to be 100% of the time. If it has a little bit of a click and it still works, like I'm kind of willing to accept that. I'm almost, like there are other bikes out there. I'm going to continue doing research, but I think that it's my point is that if there's terrible customer service and you're going to spend so much time out of your busy day and
Mhm.
like stress out about it because or get frustrated
Right,
about
right,
it,
right.
then maybe just go with the one that clicks a little. I don't know. But anyway, I just think the point is that that's how powerful customer service is and how you interact and treat your customers. That's just how powerful it is. And I hope that if at one point, at some point, I have my own business and I have customers, then I hope that I will make the right
Mhm.
decisions for those customers to keep them lifelong customers. And I also hope that I will think outside of the box in terms of how I serve them. Because I know Amazon doesn't need any more publicity than it already has. It's already basically like almost a monopoly when it comes to customer service. I know technically not, but a lot of people are trying to, get to the status of Amazon, and I
Mhm.
get it. It's already popular enough, but they're popular for a reason. Like the convenience of this app or this company is beyond measure. Like it's beyond anybody else that I've ever seen. And I know people are competing for it, but the fact that they thought, let me partner with another retailer that has boots on the ground in a lot of mainland cities. It's called Kohl's. I'm not sure if anybody, I know we don't have one in Hawaii, but on the mainland there are plenty of Kohl's, and they put a station inside of Kohl's where you could drop off your packages without having to go to the post office. And so they'll just give you a QR code. It's right on your phone. You can take a screenshot of it. You go to the back of Kohl's. They have this little Amazon counter. They scan your QR code. They take your package and you're done. Like that's it. No post office, no printing out anything. Like they're making it as convenient as possible for
Mhm.
you to be able to return something. How is that? Who thought of that? Because I just want to like send them a thank you email. Like I was gonna say hug them, but I'm like, this is not the time to be hugging
They
people. So I'm just
appreciate
gonna
that
send
too.
you a socially distant thank you
They
email.
appreciate that
But
too.
you know what I mean?
The consideration
What's
for being
that?
socially distant, and let me just send you an email.
Right, exactly. I'm sure they do. But I just hope that, as a business owner, if I'm selling a product or a service, I hope that I have, the foresight to say, I'm going to do everything I can to make this as easy as possible on my customers, even the difficult customers. Like there are difficult, I worked in the restaurant for 7 years of my life. I know there are difficult
Mhm,
people out
mhm.
there, but the compassion is what needs to come first, because the
Yep,
outcome of
I
what you're
agree.
looking for is for customers for life if you want to be a successful business. So we just wanted to kind of talk about this a little bit. We want to, for ourselves, consider or evaluate or just give advice to people out there who do own businesses, whether you're just starting out, you're established. Have you considered this lately? Like, have you thought about your return policies, your customer service, how you interact with your customers and engage with them? Have you thought about that lately? Because I hope that when I have a
Mhm.
business, I will reevaluate those things regularly. It's important, right? Because you can get kind of stuck in what
I know.
has been most comfortable for you, but
Yeah.
times change so quickly now. You got to reevaluate a
Right.
lot of things, but customer service has got to be one of them, right? Another thing I wanted to point out is that we've had the pleasure of interviewing a couple entrepreneurs on our show here, and there has been some consistency in some of the things that they've given in terms of tips. And one of them is listening to your customer, not just in what you're offering and how, but how you can make their experience better, whether that's their shopping experience, their returning experience,
Yeah.
whatever the
And
case might be. Like,
I think it's really important
listen to
to
your
also be
customers.
open to receiving
And
that
so,
information, because we did also do a recent episode where I talked about, someone asking me for feedback, me giving it to them, and them going dark. So, it's where the question comes, it's like, what kind of was the point of asking for that?
right.
Right? Like, if nothing was going to be done, not even a response. I mean, it was just surprising, right? So I think it's really important for all of us out there to consider when we ask for feedback from others to, we don't have to do everything other people are telling us to do, right? But to just accept it and be like, okay, it's good to know.
And address it. It's okay to address it. Have a
Right.
conversation. That's all. I think, in whole, in general, at the end of the day, what outcomes are you looking to achieve as a business? Remember that customers aren't cogs in a wheel. They're not numbers. No situation is the same. You have to treat every situation differently because that's just how it is.
Well, that's all we have for this
Yep.
episode in talking about customer service. Let us know about some experience that you've had in the past, whether that be good, bad, or if you have any tips. Maybe you're a business owner that's been implementing some really great ideas within your business as it relates to customers. But thanks for listening to this episode of The Outright Effect. You can find us at theoutrighteffect.com. Follow us on our social media accounts on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, all at The Outright Effect. You can also reach out by emailing us at theoutrighteffect@gmail.com. See you guys next time. Bye.
Bye.